Okay. Right. So this is the temporarily Pickaway County Court of Common Pleas. What county is Pickaway County? This one. This one. Yes, that's right. It's this county. So Honorable, sometimes Honorable Matthew Fields presiding. So so what we have today is a case that has is a defamation case. Okay. So this is a civil action. This is not a criminal action. Nobody's going to go to jail as a result of these proceedings today. So for the jury, what you will need to do as a jury is take notes about this entire proceedings. These notes will be the basis for your next paper. But this is a defamation action. And in Ohio, we have a certain set of rules that will apply to defamation actions. The parties have stipulated certain facts. The core of this dispute is a social media post or an online post. It's not really social media, but it's an online post. So here are the stipulated facts that we have to work from. These parties are going to build their cases off of, but these facts have already been stipulated, which means they've been agreed to. They're not in dispute for this. So Monica Glavin is the plaintiff. She was a former TV newscaster. She met John Glavin. She began a romantic relationship with him. I don't know why there's a link to Ohio Christian Live there, but there is. Julia was and still is married to John during this entire time frame of the case. So John was stepping out of his marriage. John is, I always tell you guys there's no bad guys in business law cases. In this case, there is a bad guy, but he is not on trial. Okay. So this is a case between Julia and Monica. Okay. Julia created a post from a website called she'sahomewrecker.com. That's the center of this dispute. It's no longer an operational web page, but still shows up in internet search results. Those are the stipulated facts. Those facts have already been agreed to. However, the parties may have additional facts or issues and exhibits that they would like to introduce into this case. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the parties for their opening statements. And I do have the rules here in Ohio. So Ohio has a specific set of standards and rules that apply to defamation actions within Ohio. So we're going to use that as the rules that apply to this case, because this is in Pickaway County and they're in Ohio. Okay, and subject to the rules and laws of Ohio. So with that begin, I'll start with the opening statements. We'll start with the opening statements for the plaintiff. So fire away.
Okay. Your Honor, we are the law firm of Dunn & Maddox and Ryan, and we are here representing our client, Monica Black. Our client's business as a real estate agent has been hurt due to the actions of the defendant, Julie Malcolm. John, the defendant's husband, had lied about the relationship with his wife, Julie Malcolm. Since Monica believed John was in the process of divorce, she continued the emotional relationship. Julie Malcolm then posted on a website titled she'sahomewrecker.com that fractured the public image of Monica. The article asserted that Monica knew of a happy marriage and also was the reason that Julie needed to get STD tested. These false statements of fact led to Monica's business plummeting 60% over the next 3 months. This has cost my client thousands of dollars in lost wages that she should be paid by Julie Malcolm. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. That's a great opening statement. Can we have an open statement for the defense?
Your Honor, we are the law firm of Smith, Brown, and Dobbins-Beck, and we are here representing our client, Julie Malcolm. Julie Malcolm was unjustly sued by Monica Glavin, defamation from a web article professing the affair that Monica Glavin had with Julie Malcolm's husband. While Julie recognizes that her anger about the actions Monica Glavin took towards her husband was bold, the lawsuit for defamation against her was not a result of her husband's wrong choices, but intentionally having an affair with Monica Glavin as well as other women. We understand that Malcolm's emotional response to Glavin on a social media page caused him harm to Glavin's social media posts. However, we will show why the lawsuit towards Malcolm is misplaced and not an accurate representation of defamation towards her.
That's fantastic. All right. So, okay. So let's proceed there. And here's how this is going to proceed. We're going to start with the statement of the case from the plaintiff, followed by a response from the defendants. I will do some questioning of both sides. We'll do some closing statements, and then I will do jury instructions. And I will put up the rules here for you to refer to. Remember that for the jury's sake, in a civil trial, it is the job of the plaintiff to prove each and every element of the statement of claim. And for defamation, they have to prove that there was a false and defamatory statement made about the plaintiff, published to a third party with the fault of at least negligence, that was either defamatory per se or cause special harm. Now that's a weird legal phrase, defamatory per se. And in this case, it's one of these categories. It's either words that indicate that they have a social or contagious disease designed to make them an outcast, to words that tend to injure the subject in their trade or profession, or words that tend to subject the plaintiff to public hatred, ridicule, or contempt. In addition, in Ohio, we have two classes of people. We have regular people and we have public figures. Okay. If the person is a public figure, there is a higher threshold that must be proven, or some additional things that must be proven in order for the claim of defamation to go through. You have to show that the statement was made with reckless disregard for the truth. You didn't care what's true or not, you just made the statement, or with actual knowledge that the statements that you made were false. That's if this person is a public figure. And so in this opening statements, we need to, at first, one of the threshold questions we have is, does this person qualify as a public figure for the purposes of applying Ohio law? So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to the plaintiffs for their statement of the case. Please pay special attention. They may have additional facts that aren't in what we've already stipulated. So go ahead.
Your Honor, if I may, I would like to hand out Exhibit A to the jury.
Okay. So Exhibit A is a social media post.
Correct.
Do you want to give them a minute to read it before you?
I do.
Okay. All right. You might as well give them a minute to read this. If you don't give them a minute, they're just going to sit and do it. But hey, do you guys want to come? You guys want to come over that seat over here?
Overall,
The slides up in the reference to right now, since it's foundation. Making practice. I think that's probably good. Would you like to proceed, Plan?
Yes, I would. I'm going to prove that Julie Malcolm made a false and defamatory statement about the plaintiff, that it was published to a third party that she did this with complete negligence of facts, and that her comments were defamatory per se through this piece of evidence. It shows that the online article that the defendant posted to www.she'sahomewrecker.com, she posted this after taking no actions to seek out the truth, and never informed Monica that she knew of the affair. Lines 5 and 6 imply that Julie believes that the reason she felt she had to get an STD test was due to the discovery of the affair. The defendant asserted that Monica was the reason for the possible STD, even though Monica never had sex with John. This was defamatory per se, since Monica was attacked with claims she had an STD. We would like to bring up the fact that Monica Glavin is not a public figure anymore, as she is years removed from being a news anchor and does not have access to the effective channels of communication to rebut these attacks. Due to the defamatory statement and pieces of evidence, Monica's businesses has plummeted over 60% in the last 3 months, causing her to lose clients and lose the ability to prove sufficient income for herself.
Okay, all right. So, and to follow that up, what are the specific statements of facts that you are alleging are at issue in this case?
That Monica was the reason that Julie has to get an STD test.
Okay, okay, all right. Are there any other facts that you'd like to put in contention for being defamatory per se, or defamatory? So for the defense, you have the set of rules in front of you. You also have the additional rules here for the laws of public figures. Why don't you start with the public figure side and make your arguments for why I'm assuming I want to argue that she should be considered a public figure. So why don't you start there and then proceed through the actual document itself,
Okay. We have right here the definition of a public figure, which states that an individual or entity that has acquired fame or notoriety and has participated in a particular public controversy. In our beginning of the case, when Julie Malcolm walks in to our office and we see that who's filing lawsuit against us, we see that Monica Gladwell, we recognize her because she was a very popular newscaster with a local TV station before. We believe that when you recognize people like that, you are a public figure, and once you become a public figure, you stay a public figure. As it shows later on, her signs for retail, real estate, and all that are posted throughout neighborhoods and all that. People still recognize her as the famous TV caster that she was back in the day.
Okay, so the argument is a continuation of that public figure status. So she's no longer a newscaster. Yes, there. She's now
She's
now
now
a
real
realtor.
estate,
Okay.
yes, but she still holds the popularity that she did have as newscaster.
Okay, all right. And then now turning to the actual internet post, which was on the website, she'sahomewrecker.com. How would you like to argue? What would you like to say about this post?
We would like to say that I have a paper here. So I'm going to show you, so I'm not going to pass it out fully. But the site since has been taken down. The site is no longer available to the public eye, and it should not continue to, interfere with her business or any other way, since people cannot see or are unable to reach the server of the site that she had posted on it.
Okay. What about the actual statements that were made in the post? Because we do have a copy of it, so we must have got a copy from somewhere.
Yes.
What about the actual statements that were made in this post?
We believe that most of them, almost all of them, are opinion based, and nothing was stated fully as a, like like nothing was a full fact that she said. It was mostly opinion based, and she mostly used mostly facts that actually did happen, with nothing that would, contradict her.
Okay. Okay. All right, did any of the other attorneys want to add to that statement?
We want to add that there was a private investigator that was involved. However, none of the information that she found that was released back to our client was published on that or on this webpage. So again, like you said, that this is purely opinion based, and that the emotions that she was dealing with, such as going and getting an STD test out of fear of what could have been happening on the other end with her husband and Monica, that this was a human response in her mind to how she is supposed to protect herself as a human and the two daughters that she had.
Okay. All right. All right, so that's a pretty good summation of the facts on each side. Let me press back a little bit on both sides. So I'll start with the plaintiff side. So why shouldn't this just be, since this is a very inflammatory post, very inflammatory. There's lots of very inflammatory language. But isn't this just her opinion about what happened? Like, why are they? What's this? What are the statements of fact that you're getting at that might have driven down her business?
I would like to point out that the defense used the terms almost. When it came to opinion, they said it was almost completely opinionated, but they did not say all opinionated. So I would like to wonder what those ones are that are not completely opinionated.
Like I said, the private investigator work found that other work projects was for other women. We do know that that was a fact, that she or that your client was not just the only person that was involved with Malcolm's husband. And we do understand the repercussions that were taken on your client's business for impact as well.
Okay. So getting back to the plaintiff. So why? I mean, there's a lot of inflammatory stuff here. There's definitely a high level of hostility. But what is it? But what is it that you're saying? It's what do you feel? What does your client feel led to her loss of business from this internet post? And how did she discover it? What was the, how does she know that there's a correlation or causation from this internet post to the underlying loss of business for her?
She only started losing her business after this was published. I mean, her business was going up from the time she started up until now, which is a few years after she was done being a news anchor. So her business had been improving until this had been published, and then it directly decreased 60% in 3 months.
Okay, so what is it about the post from your client's perspective that's causing her to lose this business? That's actually the cause of the lost business. So, you see, so there's a correlation for sure, but what from this post would be driving the loss of business from your client's perspective that would tie it specifically to this post?
The assertion that she was the cause for the possible STD, because in the document it states that she found out about the affair because of the burning sensation. There's a direct link to why she had to get a test to the affair.
Okay, all right. And so how does that lead to a loss of business? I mean, these aren't like, she's not a doctor, right? Where people would be afraid to go to a doctor that has an STD or a massage therapist or something like that, where they might fear physical contact with this person. Why would the presence of an STD lead to the loss of business for this realtor?
It could show that maybe she is not this is not the only person she has slept with, that maybe it's been more than just John. Maybe she is sleeping with a multitude of her clients.
So it's the insinuation. It's the insinuation that comes from that.
Yes.
So why does that lead to loss of business then?
Because no one is going to want to have a relationship with a realtor that could be sleeping with her husband.
So no married client. Do you want to add something to that,
And
Riley?
also, like, she's directly relating or directly addressing her as real estate agent in the post multiple times, informing people on her occupation, and she's pretty much attacking her reputation in the post as a real estate agent. So she's, and I feel like if she wouldn't have addressed our client as a real estate agent multiple times in the post and just left her like as a person, it would have been less attacking as her to her business.
Okay, okay, those are good thoughts. Any other and to speaking to the harm, because you have to show there's some resulting damages. Like the damages aren't an issue. We're not going to get too depth of damages level in this case, but from the internet post itself, what's causing the specific damage? So you mentioned there was a mention of her as a realtor. Is that the reason? What does your client feel about why she's lost all this business? The reason for it.
I would say that like the post kind of paints her as a bad realtor, and her saying, the defense saying what kind of real estate agent dates her clients, and I'm shocked that anyone would ever want to do business with. Like it's kind of painting a picture for the public to be like, oh, like we shouldn't do business with her because of what's stated in the post.
Okay, and so getting back to the defamation in Ohio, things that are defamatory per se include the contagious disease aspect of it, right? Like like an assertion that you have a contagious disease, right? Like if I said you have leprosy, and anybody that touches you will also get leprosy. That's an assertion that leads to your social isolation, correct? So that's the type of thing that we're talking about. So that's the STD part of it. But there's also words that tend to injure the subject in their trade or profession, or that lead them to public hatred, ridicule, or contempt. Do you want to argue those last 2 points, how those might or might not apply to this case?
I would say the words that injure her trade and profession. I feel like there are statements in here like what kind of real estate agent dates her clients, and I'm shocked that anyone would ever want to do business with her. I feel like that does hurt her and her profession because she's saying that no one should do business with her, basically.
Okay.
So it would hurt her image.
It also states, if you're in a relationship, don't let her near your husband. Pretty much trying to keep if ladies read the article, then would not want their husband to do business with her. And also just as another lady reading another lady's article, it would be difficult. Like I wouldn't want to go after I read this, reading it. And also that she has no remorse for her actions, and that anyone with a moral compass would have remorse for that. Pretty much saying that she's not a moral person, and that you would be doing business with someone on like you would not want to do business with someone that's immoral. So pretty much just attacking her.
So there's like, but pushing back on that a little bit, aren't those just statements of opinion? I mean, aren't these really just like a perception of this woman who ended up having a relationship with this guy John? I mean, did your client know about his marital relationship, and like why isn't that an accurate characterization, even though it's inflammatory? If you take the inflammatory language out, did your client know that she was entering into a relationship with a married man?
I would say that she was definitely misled by John. I think that they were in the process of separating. Therefore, she thought they weren't really together.
Okay, John, so shockingly, the guy who is willing to cheat on his spouse is also willing to lie to his mistress. That's a shocker. I'm totally shocked by that idea, but I'll take your word for it that may be a possibility. So you're saying that he misled your clients to entering into this relationship from the beginning how did he do that?
So he was looking to buy an apartment for him and his 2 kids. And
So him and his two kids, not him and his wife and his two
And
kids?
his wife and his kids. He claimed that he was a single dad.
Okay, so he claimed that he was a single dad in order to, and then he entered into a relationship with your client. Okay, so did she ever find out? I mean, how did she find out that she was a married man?
They had discussed Monica wanting to meet his kids, and John became really uncomfortable and said that he technically wasn't divorced yet.
So his relationship status was really complicated, not so much
He
divorced. So it was that at that point in time, and so then what happened from that point in time on, from your client's perspective?
um they she was confused and was trying to be understanding, but she would be patient. So technically she did continue the relationship. But they weren't as exclusive, I guess.
So when you read the characterization of the relationship in the internet post, how would you say it's inaccurate, at least from a subjective perspective, from your client's perspective?
It is assuming that they were having a sexual relationship and they were not.
Okay, that's a good starting point. Is there any other things you would add to that?
It says she knew he was married.
Okay. So the idea that she knew that he was married is that is a false statement, at least at some points of time, right? At some point it becomes a true statement, right? But at least it was false from your client's perspective from the beginning of the relationship. Right? She didn't voluntarily enter into a relationship with a married man.
Right.
From her perspective, she didn't know.
Right.
Okay. All right. So okay, so we'll get back to you guys for a closing statement. Some questions for the defense. So you have a situation where the actions of your client have caused harm or seem to have been the cause of harm. Like, aren't these statements of facts in here that are untrue? Right? I mean, isn't it untrue that you're, like, based on what you just heard, the real estate agent didn't know that John was married, right? So isn't that an untrue statement of a false statement of fact?
No. Our client said that, her husband also told me eventually, he told Monica that they were married. Several weeks before I caught him, he finally fessed up to me. He even showed me some text messages that backed up his story that the husband, sent Monica these messages. And she didn't even break up with him.
Okay, so the statement from your perspective is that she knew at some point in time she knows. So that makes it a true statement, or at least an opinion statement, maybe. So, but well, what about this other stuff? What about the STD? And what about those, like aren't those things that would be false statements of fact that would lead to the destruction of her business?
Well, they said themselves that their client might be sleeping with multiple people. Our client just used their opinions in in the website, and these people that read this opinion-based website used their own opinions and had their own opinion about her. But like they said, you might be scared to have a real estate agent that might sleep with other people based on facts that she actually did.
Okay, and so people going to this website, she'sahomewrecker.com, what do you think their expectations are of the truthfulness of the internet posts that they're seeing out there?
Mostly just opinion based maybe, but I mean, in it, she even said that there was a private investigator that did prove furthermore with pictures that this was happening.
So what did the private investigator prove from your, from perspective of your client? What did the private investigator prove?
He proved that, the apartment that the husband had was being used as a place to take, AKA what called his projects or these other women. That were basically a part of the situation.
So what your private investigator found was that he did have an apartment, he did procure an apartment or was using an apartment for meeting up with various women, right? Right, and what else did your private investigator prove that Julie was among the people that he met up with at his apartment?
Yes, with pictures also included, which are in the form.
Okay, so those pictures themselves are from the private investigator
Yes.
report that you got. Okay. So. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to cover before your closing statements. And the strongest allegation that they're asserting is that this STD was that Julie has an STD is being asserted in this post, and that's defamatory per se. What is your response to that for your closing statement?
We would like to point out that it was mainly just an opinion and that it was never come out in a factual statement that she did have one. She was hopeful not to have one based on previous worries that she may have had.
So she could have had a urinary tract infection. She could have had something else wrong with her that wasn't necessarily an STD.
Mhm.
Okay.
And
Right. So, okay. So why don't we move to our closing statements? I'm gonna let each side give a closing statement. And then we're gonna take it to we'll divide you guys up into series, so you guys can talk about this particular case. So go ahead, plan with your closing statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, our client, Monica Glavin, has suffered the consequences of the defendant's actions. The defendant, as we have stated, made false statements of fact about our client and her business and posted these statements on the internet for us to read. The defamatory statements made by the defendant has made our client's business plummet by 60% over the last 3 months. Not only has this affected her business, but her personal life as well. We ask that you reject the defense's theories of the case. Our client is not a public figure due to being multiple years removed from being a news anchor and not having the proper channels to combat these defamatory statements. There is absolutely no truth to the statements made by the defendant. Although there are some statements of opinion, we ask that you look at the false factual statements that the defense has made about our client. We ask that you consider these statements and hold the defense liable for their actions. Thank you.
Your Honor, we believe Julie Malcolm was unjustly sued by Monica Glavin for defamation from a webpage article professing the affair that Monica Glavin had with Julie's husband. We believe we provided ample evidence to support our client. She may have acted out of emotional distress, but we believe Julie did not act out of malice but purely based.
All right. We're gonna take it to the jury now. Now, for the juries, I'm gonna give you guys each jury a sheet of paper that you'll have to fill out. The questions that you'll have to answer as follows. Were there false statements of facts made by the defendant? Yes or no? If so, you have to actually list out what those statements of fact were made. Were those understood to be about the plaintiff and published to a third party? Is the plaintiff considered to be a public figure? And if you determine that the person is a public figure, then you have one set of questions to answer. And if you determine that they are not a public figure, then you have another question to answer. And did these false statements of fact lead to financial damages? Okay, so it's a much more streamlined than last time, but you will need to actually enumerate what you think were statements of fact in the internet post, or false statements of fact. So I'm going to break you guys into juries. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there are, let's see. Okay, so there's 15 of you. So that means each jury has 5 members in it. If I'm doing the math right on that. So you have to have, you don't have to, you have any, but you have to have 4 or 5 jurors agree. With each determination for you to come to a conclusion. I want the jury number 1 to meet over here, jury number 2 can meet right over here, and jury number 3 can meet over there. Here, let me give you the jury 2. Jury 3, where's jury 3? Over here someplace. All right, go ahead and deliberate. Are you sure? It's great. You have to agree with your like opening statements and so on and so you know, so the that's not for you and there's a lot of stuff that's just irritating. Yeah, I'm just, I mean, I kind of like force me to out worse than yeah, so like yeah, that actually is one of them. So it's, I mean, this is actually should but like it's like as a chief, yeah, so I didn't know that's insane or not. This isn't my, but we're how do I get to the essential elements of it's really not. It's all still it's not trust. But yeah, recording is also doing stuff actually. And the husband and the husband might be he said that's a good click further. There's no.
These are the actual.
I don't say it's here's
For
I don't think it's clear to this, because the hour, that would necessarily there, features there.
those.
Looking like this, it's like, it's not that easy. And you sort of it, or involves me. How do we know our next? What's also going on is a circus. Hang on, this is a lot of with the child like that. I believe you like nameless names. Jesus help us. It's not going to start me. It is great. Alright, Jesus is it doesn't, she doesn't like for sure say that she didn't have a sense that she's still raising them false and I think that's the stipulation. No, that's oh, they yeah, it's hard, like I say, but you know, the child had that back when yeah, that much money it's hard buying you know consequence. Fact is it's not a kind of we can't prove that it's works from this photo. So it's like it's the size. But that's like I treated that like 4 hours. But it wasn't built. It's just not you don't see. Oh, it's nothing to do right through it's from pattern from illegal. Jesus, I it's like so you see it and things that way. But here's you know, like I heard it's a dryer. If you're the this, yeah. It was, yeah, we really like you might prove that it's story. Why is this scary? Let's go get answered. We should get social media numbers. Like how much about volume does she have? Essential. Yeah, that would be that. Easy on us. And then the question is, she what are social group? I ran a spouse. Wait, what was that? Data is
Tries on that, something like they were
Then like the body, she like it's have sometimes.
Well, of course, it's not. It's so many from the movies, not being like, it's mostly about men.
Not in
their
the
relationship.
or her secrets.
I
don't think she would write you. Necessarily, she didn't have one thing, so this that shows, but that's all.
But it's like, they kind of force years to like, sort of marry his, it's one thing, every story. So it's just all right. Makes sense. Right, so, it's right. You don't have, I'll write. What is going? Alright, this guy started on church on every day. And it was like, I didn't give him something that I didn't quite things and he's around about it. I just said, you know, here's the arguing movies, which I mean, it's extreme. That's it, that's what I said to do. That's here's the next line of modifier, so your client. As this is like gosh, I find. Man, I really. Yes or no? Yes, you guys have been back. But I repeat, so the investment. Let's say, your client took money from ours, please do it. You do this, no, like, there's managed to launch, but if you play, right, take money down, lock on, put this in tight, to everyone. Did some, that would, that's here. My thanks for this, man, a lot. Oh, so that's the biggest stuff, this is very, so exactly the bigger bonus. We didn't have six years. All right, but when we use the seven plus your now series is still work. So how you going about thinking how you're going about there's why my city kids need stuff. Wait, so what was you were but so some sort of trade-offs, you have to have give them some direct. So because I got that requires some meetings and there's some other thing. What did we buy? What for me? If you like him, actually, all that about that. So, dear client. Well, you should be so bad.
Has no remorse. Client is crying right at that.
So you want to turn in her for that's all. That's all.
No, she was never in. Why? It's just mine for, I guess. Like,
It might like it up.
sleep with your own.
Super organized. Really something. All I do is never just. We don't have any information for me. It's not parents, what she's saying is, business, voice working on. Tracker. She's on tracker, it's the why it's kind of, that's coins. Figure out, yes, it's like. So she gets like, that's very something. That. We have. That's to be. Come back. Yes. That part. I, not the one. I'm here totally here. See what I was feeling. Okay, talking what I like it. Yeah, what the Ron James, it's basketball. He wants to learn basketball. So I promise maybe the news reporters. That's what I'm very interested. Yes. I need to use gas alone.
That's why I'm.
I'm still. There's out of the world with any disaster. Nobody is that. When you consider it as a supporter public figure, she is she can popular newscaster because it says that when she went out, it's certainly piece of like about I recognize the name she's a bear. I can't really say what you can use one. It's what's in a high off visual and what I want it's
It's fine to rather than what I think I say it's the iron thoughts are honest. So
Try to take homes.
Would I be a public? Yes, immediately. Someone recognize motion for in McDonald's, an hour up from here, that'd be super big, you know. Let's share. I'm asking, I mean, I was just trying to shop, it's custom. So exactly, you can't move that though, but that's a bus back, that's fine. Start them, that's single language, true information, it's one, so what's with our cases, you know, one memory, since he's don't. Yeah. Back in James. You're saying I was kind of saying, yes, yeah, it is. I'm right, you're saying, try, you guys done this. I think you guys done. No. There's a hard time for 20 million dollars worth of bonds. It's like, it's like 10,000. I don't listen to this. Well, everybody, can we tell the awesome. Exactly. Our child is long. He's like, no. You guys, like, you know what? Morgan, well, how many people know? Oh, yeah, like, it's wow, very hot. We can call it any game. We saw it or go. Hey, you know, that we can shoot. It's like, so, I used to speak with them again. So I used to, so yeah. You have a lot of value that's going on. Good thing. It's you know, it's just the maybe the big shoot. Like, it's a different hour. We just do it. Now, we don't always feel like sport conferences. No experience. So you have a lot of money without. Yeah, no, we should. We pays. You guys can do it. We talk about it. No. Yes, you know. Exactly. Yes, because like that. I'm like, you need to stop arguing. I know. I'm not saying. I'm not saying. Okay, sorry, he's trying to raise some support.